This is definitely going to be the most weirdest video I've ever made. But it is from the bottom of my heart. For some strange reason that I'm still yet to understand, I have missed my political lecturer the most this Christmas. Now, as most of you must know, the relationship between a father and a son is extremely complex, especially if it takes you very many decades to understand your own biological father. And the saddest thing of all is that at the time of his death, we were not on talking terms. And even more painful is the fact that I was proved right. Whatever we had a disagreement on, I was proved right. And he was proved wrong, and it cost him his life. Oh, I wish I was wrong. Now, if it were possible to talk to people on the other side, people have passed on, people on the night shift, you'd be surprised the first thing I'd tell my dad. I'd tell him things are much better in Kenya today. And he would understand immediately. Let me explain. For years, in fact for decades, my political lecturer talked about corruption in Kenya. He said it was damaging. He said there was nowhere, absolutely nowhere, the country would go until we sorted out the corruption. And believe it or not, people found him absolutely crazy. Starting with me. Growing up, we had family friends who were involved in corruption, and they were doing very well, much better than us. They had much better and newer cars than we did. Indeed, than the ramshackle, very old, smoking car that my political lecturer had. And growing up, I believed that he was being totally unrealistic, blind to the realities on the ground. Indeed, at one point, I felt in my mind and I was convinced that he was stupid. But look at Kenya today. The tide has turned. Corrupt people are no longer heroes. It is true that we're not yet there. That place where we see corruption for what it is, stealing from public coffers, stealing from the poor people of Kenya. But the truth is, we have come a very long way. It is because of this very rigid stand of my political lecturer that he had very few friends. In fact, he would not even have a drink in any local watering hole or pub, because the conversation would not go very far without him getting very, very upset. Over what? Over some attitude of a person concerning corruption in the country. I would also have told him about the handshake between Raila Odinga and President Uhuru Kenyatta that has completely transformed and changed and revolutionized the political landscape in Kenya. But knowing him the way I knew him, I know he would not have been happy about that. Because you see, my political lecturer did not like Raila Odinga. And this sentiment was not tribal, because he admired a lot of other people from the Luo community. James Orengo, for instance. And the hero of his life, Thomas Odhiambo Joseph Mboya, or simply Tom Mboya. It was extremely difficult to have any political discussion with my late political lecturer without the name of TJ, as he liked calling him, or Tom Mboya, creeping into the conversation. In his view, this was a politician like no other Kenya has ever had, and like no other Kenya would ever have. Sadly, he passed on before my research had unearthed exactly what happened to Tom Mboya. That would have really intrigued him. And especially the fact that his colleague, somebody he knew very well, a man called Ben Gedhi, was the man who actually pulled the trigger, that fired the 2 shots that ended the life of this great son of Kenya. Anyway, bottom line, it was not tribal. He just did not like Raila Odinga, and especially because of Raila Odinga's father, the late Jaramogi Oginga Odinga. In his view, Jaramogi was a very selfish kind of leader, very different from his beloved Tom Mboya. But knowing him, I sensed that most of the hatred and dislike for the Odingas came from the fact that it is Jaramogi Oginga Odinga who cut short, or completely blocked Tom Mboya's ascension to becoming the first president of the Republic of Kenya. Because he often talked about the kind of Kenya would have had TJ become the first president. So I doubt, and I believe I'm right, whether he would have ever understood what the handshake was about. Or even more importantly, whether he would have ever been interested in understanding what the handshake is about. Because many times I tried to convince him that Raila is a kind of leader who is very different from his late father. He never bought it. But I'm also sure he would not have been happy about the other side, the other major side in the political divide currently in Kenya, DP William Ruto. Because my late lecturer loathed, with a deep passion, anything to do with corruption. Bottom line, he would have rubbished the handshake, and he would have also rubbished DP William Ruto. But I know for sure he would have had great admiration to the DPP, Nuruddin Haji, and the Director of Criminal Investigations, Bwana George Kinoti. You know, Almighty God works in very mysterious ways which you can never understand. Because I firmly believe it is by divine appointment and divine purpose that this channel exists today. And at least I can see the reason why he purposed and destined that I be born in a family or be born of a father who was so rigid and principled in his stand over Kenya, despite the prevailing circumstances then, despite what was being taken as very normal then. I can understand why Almighty God purposed that this be my political lecture, so as to produce me today and to produce this channel as it is today. Because I firmly believe my stand on many issues would have been very different had I been educated by corruption funds, had I enjoyed the proceeds of corruption growing up. This would have been a very different Chris Kumekucha. And in all likelihood, this channel would never have existed, let alone my mantra of fighting for a better Kenya and doing things that can stand the test of time to my last breath. Well, this festive season, I've sourly missed, more than all the other years, the lively discussions we'd have had on Kenyan politics with my political lecturer. And I have a theory. Maybe Almighty God wanted me to see how much Kenya has changed. Because had my political lecturer been alive today, his point of views, and what he used to say would have been much better received in local pubs. He would have been a hero, because clearly he was way ahead of his time. Running this channel is not easy. It has many challenges. Running Club 1999 has numerous challenges. But I've been able to run both, by the grace of God, who organized my upbringing and also organized the home or the father I was going to be born to. Because without that, I don't think I would have been able to live up to the challenge that I face every day, running this channel and running the club. In fact, running the entire Kumekucha brand. Because it is all kept going by something inside me that is so strong. And that something inside me that is so strong has a lot to do with my late political lecturer and the home I was born into. That is apart from the very unique insights that I would have had no way of having had I not been born in that particular family, had I not been under the tutorship, political tutorship of my late political lecturer. This is a video of venting. That is a fact. My apologies. But I hope that regulars to this channel will understand what we're doing here much better. Dad, Kenya is doing a lot better than you would ever have imagined. And there's hope that tomorrow will even be much better. Despite all the challenges, despite all the obstacles, despite all the things happening in Kenya now, we are right on track. We are still on the path to a better Kenya. A much better Kenya than you left. And what is more, your principles, your sacrifices, and the suffering you had to go through for standing on your principles was not in vain. It all birthed something that will definitely stand the test of time. Until next time, this is Chris Kumekucha.